Hi people, it's Archivist here, and today I'm going to be doing both a casual review of Planetary Annihilation, but I'm also going to talk about some other stuff that's been going through my mind as of late. Now, I've already done a top 5 reasons to be excited for Planetary Annihilation, but the game has advanced quite a lot. They've done some great things to the graphics and performance, don't get me wrong, the performance is still so-so in areas. Then again, I have got this maxed out, so I can only blame the game so far if I'm going to choose the max settings. But something they did do well was removing the aliasing by adding a decent anti-aliasing option. Before, I believe there was an anti-aliasing option, but it basically didn't work. Jagged edges everywhere. To say rough around the edges would be an understatement. So I'm really glad they solved that. They also added this new galactic mode where you go around to each different solar system systematically and defeat them, and it's excellent. It's very reminiscent of an old Star Wars game called Empire at War. It's good, especially for a beginner. I mean, I've only played this game a bit. I've not invested too much time into it, and it's nice to have an easy pace to begin with, and it's kind of building up, getting more difficult. The match you're seeing at the moment is fairly early on. It's a very vanilla game, not too many exciting things happen. I basically just build a bunch of units, send them against the enemy, and defeat the enemy. Something I do get a bit concerned about at the moment though is that we do have a sort of decline in the RTS genre, it would seem. We have StarCraft 2, which is very popular, especially in South Korea I believe, but that really is the great RTS and one of the few RTS games. At least the traditional sense, because the RTS that I enjoy is the base builder. I played another game called Men of War, it's a World War II RTS, and I totally appreciate it's an excellent game, but there's no base building in it, and to me base building is a very, very important part of an RTS, and there just aren't as many of them anymore. There's no Supreme Commander 3, which is a shame because I really enjoyed Supreme Commander 2. It was one of the first games I ever reviewed on this channel, actually, one of the motivations for creating this channel. It wasn't actually a very popular game by critics. A lot of people preferred the original, but I kind of liked how it simplified some of the complexities of the original, but kept over the general feel and the general scale. I mean, Planetary Annihilation is very, very reminiscent of Supreme Commander. I believe some of the same people are actually working on it, which would explain why, everything from how you create buildings to mass extraction to energy all work very similarly. Another genre that's in decline a little, if I may go off on a tangent here, is the platformer. Although good old Nintendo are continuing to bring out platformers, excellent platformers on their Nintendo Wii U. As someone who doesn't really like using the Wii U, I don't really get my platformer fix anymore, and I thought it would be a genre I grew out of, but I do find myself feeling nostalgic for it. It would be great if on, say, the PlayStation 4 we got a new Jak and Daxter game, or Jak game, or even a Crash Bandicoot game. I really don't want these old franchises to be forgotten, although I can so imagine they'll just bring them back in some reboot. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if at some E3 they just have this kind of teaser and then Jak and Daxter jump out and they say, oh, we're bringing them back, and then the platformer goes off for a smash hit again. There are so many games where you can't even jump anymore. I mean, why did we lose the ability to jump? In fact, it seems as if some genres are just going to die out entirely, or they'll merge with others. I can imagine that the action genre and the RPG genre will eventually merge. I really hope they do, because turn-based RPGs aside, they really have some great overlaps where, it makes all the sense that they overlap. Imagine a God of War game that retains its perfect combat, but it also has an excellent story, an open world. That would be a great game. But, if you say it's an RPG, you'd expect the combat to be worse. And if you say it's an action game, you'd expect the story to be worse. So, at some point in the future, perhaps we'll see these two genres die, but in their place will be a super genre. We already have action RPGs, but they never really take full advantage of either side. They're usually lacking. They're kind of like a hybrid, like a jack of all trades. They're good at both, but not excellent at either. I remember Kingdoms of Amalur. That was decent at combat, decent RPG, but excelled in neither area. Oh, also I wanted to quickly talk about something I've wanted to mention for a while now. About a year and a half ago now, I had pretty bad insomnia. I couldn't sleep at all, and naturally I needed some way of alleviating it, so I went into the YouTube search engine and typed in relaxing, and I found this thing called ASMR. It's this great way of relaxing yourself. People tend to talk directly to you as if they were in the same room. They use very softly spoken voices, and I believe among a lot of gamers, I know myself, I think I triggered it by basically staying up too late, if I'm honest, and I disrupted my sleep patterns. So if you're someone who has like a late night gaming session, and then because you're kind of overstimulated, your brain's firing all your synapses off, you need to relax, I'd say one of the best ways is to use one of these ASMR channels to your advantage. I've dabbled in it a bit myself, but I'm no natural. I've basically not done anything like that for what's going on a year now. Probably won't return to it, but I definitely want to spread the word about ASMR to people who won't naturally find it, because I imagine a lot of gamers could actually do with it. It's a great combination, actually, I find, when I'm playing games like Minecraft or even Planetary Annihilation, when it's not as difficult, is to search ASMR and listen to it while you're playing. It's a very relaxing, a very therapeutic experience, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who is not yet familiar with the phenomenon as it's become now. And finally, if you're at all interested in the gaming industry, you'll know that E3 is on its way, and there have been some leaks as to what we'll see on the press conference floors this year. Two games that have caught my attention are Halo 5 and God of War 4. I say that because the unknowns, I can't say I'll be excited for them, because I believe Guerrilla are coming out with an RPG. That interests me, but without knowing the premise, I can't say I'm excited for it. But Halo 5 is something I'm both excited for, but at the same time, direly wished it would come to the PC, and I know it won't. No way it would come to the PS4, but I really wish they'd start putting Halo games on the PC. I mean, that would be a dream come true for me. I played Halo 4, loved it, and as I've said in the past, Halo Reach is one of my favourite games of all time. God of War 4, on the other hand, I'll be glad that I can play that on the PS4. I would like to be able to play it on the PC, but it's not a problem for me to play it on the PS4, so I also believe the God of War series to be sorely underappreciated, and yes, I know that sounds crazy because the God of War series does so well critically, but because it's an exclusive, it doesn't get the exposure it deserves, as with any exclusive game. If it was a title that was on PC, Xbox, even Wii, more people would get to play it, and therefore I think it would be more widely appreciated. And also, if we focus on just the trilogy, excluding Ascension for just a moment, those games were not multiplayer, and therefore people couldn't really interact with each other on the same level. If you look at the really popular games at the moment, League of Legends, you've got Minecraft, you've got World of Warcraft, these are all multiplayer experiences, because not only can people talk about them with each other, they can also play with each other. But with the original God of War trilogy, and I'm guessing actually God of War 4 will also forego multiplayer, I've got a hunch that will be the case. If that's so, then perhaps God of War 4 will also not get the appreciation it deserves. Then again, I'm not sure how much success Sony believe that the multiplayer gave Ascension, so it's difficult to judge whether or not God of War 4, if it's even called God of War 4, will have multiplayer. But aside from those two titles, I'll be very excited to see some of the unknown entities that will be shown to us at E3. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.